I was on the water crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and it took me 71 days to cross. This generation where everything is so easy and given to you, and we feel like we have no hardship. And am I trying to find hardship in my own life so that I can feel alive and I create those values that make me a better person? What does this teach me? What can I do about it? And then you start action. You accept and you let go of control. And then from that, you say, what is it that I have control of? I have control of my mind. What are the things that I have in control, and then work on that?
Cyril, welcome to The Point of Impact. I'm really honored to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here, Aaron. Thanks for the invite.
Well, I tell you what, as a far less accomplished fellow paddler, what you've done is inspiring. It's amazing. I'd like to do some very challenging things on terra firma, like ultra marathons. Mm-hmm. But yours is this multi-month ultra marathon on water. I mean, what is it? So it's roughly 7,200 people have been to the top of Mount Everest. Less than a tenth of that number have been to outer space. Mm-hmm. How many people have done what you've done? Even half of that.
So, yeah. Well, that's why I do it, because nobody else has done it, so it's kind of easier, in a way, because there's no competition.
Well, yeah, there's a very unique. Tell me, okay, so which was first, the Pacific, right?
Yeah. So what I've done is I took a kayak and I make sure it was really seaworthy, right? So I studied a lot, and I had it built by a guy who was really knowledgeable. And I kayaked from California to Hawaii. So it's the mid-Pacific, right? We call it the Pacific crossing, but it's really the mid-Pacific. And to get to Hawaii took me 91 days. So the expedition was completely alone in the boat, unsupported. That means no boat is supporting me in any way. It's not following me through the water. I'm just 90 days alone on the water and human powered. So there's no help for sail or kite or motor, obviously. And that was my first crossing back in 2022, last year in March 2025. So it's actually almost a year ago. I was on the water crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and it took me 71 days to cross from pretty much Africa to the Caribbean. So that was my second solo endeavor. So that's a kayak crossing. Yeah.
Wow. As a kayaker, I did whitewater. I did the very small, agile boats. What kind of? Yeah, amazing. Tell me about the kind of kayak, because I know sea kayaks much longer. They don't turn as easily. But yours was pretty custom.
You have to adapt the type of kayak. I guess kayaking is when you use a double blade paddle and you go right, left, and you go forward on a boat, right? Instead of rowing, where you go backward, you use oars and then you push with your legs as well. I guess a kayak is defined by that. And then depending on the kind of body of water you use, you make sure that it works properly for what it's meant to, and you stay safe, right? So a whitewater for you would be a kayak that has a lot of buoyancy, that allows you to bump around and hit rocks, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you go on flat water where it's a lake and you want speed, you're going to have something much more narrow, lighter, and built for speed. If you go coastal, where you're going to have those bouncy waters and maybe waves that are going to swamp the kayaks, you want to have a skirt, right? And my kayak is meant for ultra long journeys where I'm going to be 3 months on the water with no support whatsoever. So I need a water maker. Okay, how do I build? I can't carry the water for 3 months. So that water maker is a desal unit that's going to take the ocean water and then removes the salt. Well, how do you power this? You need solar panels, and then you need batteries. And also, if there's a storm, you need to have a cabin that is completely waterproof so that you capsizing and it will still self-righten. You see what I'm saying is that I built a kayak that is to the job, right? And it's the same for everything. I guess you could have a canoe that is built for flat water, for rivers and for lakes. And then you could have a canoe that goes over, right? So, my kayak is amazing. She is amazing. Her name is Valentine. And and I name her per my sister, because we're 5 kids in the family and just one sister. I want to, boats have women's name, and I decided to call her Valentine because I knew she would take care of me.
That's pretty incredible. Was it, you said 23 feet long, and you had even a cabin inside, so you weren't paddling 24 hours a day. You would
no
sleep,
way.
eat.
Oh, yeah.
What was like a normal day like for you?
So for the boat itself, 23 feet is long, right? It's as long as a double kayak that you use. 2 people could be in there, but I built it as a single boat because I wanted to have that cabin where I could lay down. Safety was always the first thing, right? If the boat is in a storm and it capsizes and has to self-righten, if it is swamped, I don't want it to sink ever. It has to be unsinkable. So you build it a certain way. So sure, it's a big kayak, but it's a small boat in the end. In my cockpit, it still is pretty small. I can touch the water on both sides. So it could be swamped in any kind of wave. Now, as to, my schedule during the day, it's really hard to do any kind of physical activity for 24 hours for 3 months in a row. I got to pace myself. Now, imagine you were to cross the U.S. and just walk every day. You wouldn't walk 24 hours a day. You need to rest. And for me in the ocean, it's exactly the same. I actually don't sprint ever. I just go easy. I just walk instead of running, right? I paddle just maybe, from sunrise to sunset for sure, because I want to optimize the daylight. But at night, when the sun comes down, I want to be inside because I don't see the waves coming. It's much more risky. I'm attached at all times, so even if I were to fall on the water during the day or during the night, I would be safe because I can always climb back. But at night, the risk of capsizing it, and falling in the water would be much higher. But yeah, the sun come up, I'd go start paddling for an hour, get warm up, and kind of situate my poor night sleep, and then just have a breakfast, and then paddle until noon, pretty much. And then after that, take an hour to take a break and make water because I have to have the sun at the zenith and at the highest point so that it charges the battery. And then I have the afternoon, another 4 or 5 hours of paddling until, sun comes down, and then I get in the cabin and be safe for the night.
I just so many questions. First, you are obviously French, and it's obvious because the French are very liberal with their letters. Just jammed so many. It's just completely inefficient, and you don't even use half of them in your pronunciation. I don't understand, but but you're also a resident of San Francisco, right? That's where you left from. But you consider yourself a global citizen, right?
Correct.
In fact, how many languages do you speak?
Well, I'm fluent in 5, but I speak 6. I'm still learning German. Somehow it's hard to get it in my brain, but I understand German, but it's mostly Latin language. It's a little bit easier. It's French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, and English, obviously. But for the citizen of the world, I think this vision of not being linked to any particular nationality, just because I traveled and lived overseas so much, and I just know that we're all humans. Like, we're all the same part of the human race. And I think when you look at this site instead of just nationalities, it just helps to bring love to each other and have a different view of the world, right? And I think, I've seen the other day that astronauts, always have this vision where they go to space and they look down at that blue Earth planet and they say, it's one planet. There's no countries from above. And I love this vision. And, I was 25. I did a trip around the world backpacking. And I just love the fact that you meet people that are just amazing. They speak a different language, different culture, different country. So what? We're all the same. And I love that. And I want to be a citizen of the world. So I self-define myself as a citizen of the world. Obviously, I was raised in the French culture. I've been living in the United States for the last 18 years. So I'm very tainted by the American view and the French view. And I guess the culture that is who I am, but I like to not be limited by this. I'm a human. That's it.
Well, I've always loved travel and adventure, and I actually studied German for 3.5 years to find out I just have no aptitude for it. But I did live in Italy for about 4 years, learned the language passively, and gained that appreciation for the cultures being so close together, right? And everybody learning multiple languages because there's so much commerce and travel between among each other. So it's unfortunate that the United States is so isolated by the oceans, and our neighbors to the north also speak English, but it's kind of like it's almost like an American English, except if aliens came down to mimic us. Like they said, did you say a boot? Anyways,
right. Yeah, and being raised, in Europe just makes it a so different paradigm where you have to learn languages in some ways. I could still speak only French, right? But if you fly 1 hour, you're in Frankfurt. If you fly 1 hour, you're in Ireland, and then you could be in Amsterdam, and then you could be in Spain and in Italy. So, like that plurilanguage is just part of Europe, and you just know that. Okay, if you just learn English, that's fine. You could go around, but it's so much better to order, cappuccino in Italian.
Mm-hmm. Where did the love for the adventure in the ocean come from? Was this a childhood thing? Your family, parents?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to track, right? I think there's part of the personality where I always wanted to discover, but there's part of where you were raised. Like my parents we lived in a small village, and somehow this is my roots, and I loved it. But at some point, it felt like a little island. I wanted to discover the world, and I went. So is it a reaction for, okay, I feel trapped here, and my personality makes me want to go discover, and I love it, so I want to do more and more? Or, who knows? I think it's more love of discovery and adventure rather than a love of the ocean at the first place. Because imagine, I moved to the United States. I was 32. I had never kayaked before. And I never kayaked before 32. And then 10 years later, I was building that boat. Only 10 years later to cross an ocean doing something nobody had done before. Like, what? So it's not love of the ocean. Like, I had met people along the way that were mountaineering and they loved the mountain. Maybe I would have loved the mountain. I don't know. I just love adventure, and you love it. I want to do this with you. Let's go, So who knows what life is all about? I think for me, it was all about feeling the sense of being excited, the vibration, and there's this thing, I love this. I want to do more. And then you keep going, Well,
I discovered kayaking through, after I lost my eyesight. So I've never been in a kayak when I could see. And it was only after I was injured that I started looking for people who were doing just anything to get me outside. I wanted to find I was searching the internet for blind plus outdoors, blind plus running, blind plus anything, so I wouldn't get stuck on the couch. And I found a couple names kept popping up. One of them being Lonnie Bedwell, who's the first blind person to kayak the entire Grand Canyon.
Wow!
In a solo boat. So he was supported by an organization called Team River Runner. It's all adaptive kayaking for whitewater, open water. They've got chapters all over the country. I'm no doubt there's one near San Francisco, but I actually talked to Lonnie and the founder, Joe Mornini, and asked him, what would you guys ask Cyril about his boat, his adventure? So I want to mix in some of those questions too. But,
do you know that there's, so rowboats are usually what kind of vessel people use to cross oceans. Because rowing boats, you could have oars that are much longer, the boat is bigger and more stable, and you can, use the legs as well. And there's many advantages of rowing versus kayaking. But a few years back, there's a team of two. Mick Dawson is this British guy, a friend of mine, who took his friend who's legal blind, and they crossed from California to Hawaii. Imagine, and they were taking turns, 2 hours rowing on and then 2 hours off, 2 hours on, 2 hours off. So his friend was actually rowing in the middle of the night. He doesn't care. I guess he doesn't care for him day or night, but he did it. He got to Hawaii with his blind friend. So if you ever want to row an ocean, it's just possible.
Yeah, I've certainly found out from Lonnie and a few other amazing people that there's almost no limit to what we can accomplish. Our biggest limitation are just our imagination, our creativity, and our willingness to give it a try. And I tell you what, and to endure. In fact, speaking of rowing and endure, the story of the endurance and Shackleton's journey and that arduous rowboat. Do you know how far that was?
Yeah.
I want to say it was 800 miles or so.
And then freezing cold and then ice and then no food and no cover.
No food.
No, that's amazing. Yeah. But here's what I want to say with what you just said. Let me rebound on this. Because you have a disability, which is eyesight. And you say, I want to overcome it and I want to do it. I want to find a way to do it. But what about other people that have no obvious limitations and that don't do things? Well, they're still limited by some kind of block somewhere. It could be fear of pushing your own boundaries, fear of discomfort, fear. So they're limited. And the message that you're saying is like, well, my limitation is eyesight, but I've got everything else. What's your limitation? And everybody has to say, well, okay, I don't like this and that and the other, and I think everybody who is fully has all those senses would still have to look at themselves saying, here's my limitation, but I still want to overcome it. Right. And I think you're doing something amazing, which is, okay, here's mine. Maybe you have others that, we don't talk about. And that is not as plain as saying I don't have a sight. I like it.
Well, you I think you hit the nail on the head with the fear of discomfort, the fear of stepping out of your safety net. I'm sure you've heard it so many times by now. Michael Easter's was it the comfort crisis?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I actually interviewed Dr. Paul Taylor. Oh, amazing. Aussie, who wrote The Hardiness Effect. And just talking about what happens when we go just a step beyond. Just a step beyond what's comfortable, and it starts turning into momentum. Like you said, you only discovered kayaking a relatively short time ago. It wasn't something you grew up with. And then it seems like all of a sudden you're, building custom kayaks to how far is it? 2,300 miles?
It's long. It's freaking long. It's 2,400. So the Mid-Pacific was 2,400 nautical miles, and the Atlantic, the route I did was 2,500. It's a little bit longer, but here's funny. It's 100 nautical miles longer, but it took me 3 weeks less because the currents and the winds are favorable and push me faster. But I tell you, those 70 days, because the current was strong, because the wind was pushing me, was actually as hard as the Pacific. It was just a different adventure, right?
Okay, so tell me, how did you prepare for this? What was the training like?
Well, okay. So I just didn't wake up saying I'm going to cross the ocean. It took 10 years to get to there, where first I did shorter races and longer and longer and longer. And along the way, it's been 15 years that I've been consistent training physically and knowing myself, right? So I think it's all about knowing yourself physically and also mentally and emotionally. So how do you train? It's hard. Yeah, let's say I want to cross an ocean in 2 years. I'm going to start a protocol where there's going to be physical training, there's going to be mental training, but it all compiles all the experiences you've had the last 10, 15 years, no matter what. But okay, if I'm going to paddle 12 hours a day, I've got to train my body for that. And I don't want to be injured. I think the first priority is to get to the starting line with no injury whatsoever. I want to feel strong. I want to feel like I've done my homework, and I want to feel like, okay, I've got this, right? That certainty that is linked to my body is linked to my head as well, because I don't ever want to feel like I've undertrained, that I should have trained more, because shit is going to hit the fan. Excuse my French, but what it does, I don't want to ever think or doubt myself like I should have trained better. I'm not ready. I wanted to acknowledge that, yeah, it's tough, but I know I can get over it. I did my homework. I knew it was going to happen. So that leads to the second side, which is not the physical, but more the mental. How do you get to the point where, you can adapt mentally to every hardship that you're going to get, right? Because 3 months is long. Imagine, look, if you were to just sleep on your deck for 3 months, you're going to have a cold and wet and dry and hot and all these things, it's kind of funny to do the parallel. I'm in my kayak for 3 months. What if you were to live, you put a chair on your deck and then you sit on that chair and you can't move for 3 months. You got to plan all the food that you have around you. The only thing you could do is lay down. Maybe you have a one-man tent, and you got to figure out a way to poop in it, drink water from, how do you make the water? How do you collect it? Maybe from the rain. What kind of clothes do you get? So it's pretty much that, but in the middle of the ocean. How do you train for this? How would you? It's kind of funny.
Don't most Americans sit on their butts all day long anyways?
Yeah. So I think, the most important is to be self-aware about knowing who you are and why you do things you do, and how do you adapt. I think you take off, you go with a certainty that you could adapt to anything that the universe will throw at you.
Mm-hmm. But you also said that this kayak, it was specially modified, so you're not paddling with your arms, or are you also paddling? You're pedaling and paddling?
Yeah. So all the accounts that I've read, there's 5 guys before me that have crossed oceans in kayaks, and they all used only the arms, right? But that means after 3 months, your legs are atrophied. You don't use your legs. On my kayak, I can't even walk for 3 months. I can't even stand like really well. So I thought, okay, I need a way to use my lower limbs just for feeling stronger, and then just for sanity as well, not just to paddle. And I have a backup too. Like, what if I hurt my shoulder? Do I have to quit? I don't want to do that. Like, if I hurt my back or like cut my hand, I can't paddle. That's it. I have to quit. No, I want to have an alternative. So not only did I want to be able to use your legs so I would rest the upper body, but also have an alternative should I have something wrong. So my protocol was to wake up and paddle with the kayak, so the upper body, and then take an hour in the morning. So I would paddle. I created this little system, which is a pedaling system, where you can push forward and back, and it has these flippers under the boat that would push my boat. The other reason is, okay, I'm eating in the morning, at lunch and dinner, like 3 times a day. I'm spending time eating, so I use my hands, which means my boat is not moving. That means for maybe 1 hour in the morning, 1 at lunch, 1 at dinner, 3 hours, the boat is not moving. If I use the pedaling system, I push back and forth. I can still eat. I can still look around. I can still look at the ocean. My boat is moving at 2 miles an hour, right? So that means for 1 hour, I'm doing 2 miles in the morning, at lunch and dinner. That's 6 miles a day. 6 miles a day times 90 days. It's like 500 miles where my boat is moving. That's 1/5 of my destination just because I'm moving while I'm eating. That just makes sense to me now. That's why I added this little paddling system on the boat.
I remember even after a few hours of being in the whitewater kayak, my back would be in agony. I I'm just desperate to get out of that skirt and to stretch my back out and stand upright. So you said you'd prepared physically and mentally. There's something about yoga. Like how do you keep from like that physical pain of staying in that one position, that sitting position for so long?
Yeah. So let's say for 2 years leading to the crossing, I need to train so many hours a day, like 3 hours a day. Okay. For the months of February, 2 hours a day. I'm going down a little bit from the months of March and back up. Okay. If I were to do only kayaking, I'd be very good at kayaking, but I would be an expert, but maybe the risk of an injury would be high. Right. So I sat down with a guy who's a pro and he said, okay, well, if you were to train, I think here's your protocol you should do. You should do your 3 hours a day, but it's really about fitness and the whole body's in one unit. So he recommended that I do many sports. So maybe if I had to do 3 hours a day, I would do 1 hour of biking, 1 hour of yoga, 1 hour of paddling. The next day, 3 hours. If I do only 3 hours of paddling, yeah, that would be good. But then I could get injured. So no, let's do 1 hour of swimming, 1 hour of running or yoga or whatever, that things. And then biking is great because there's no impact. So it's only muscles. And I'm 50 now. It's probably makes sense for me not to do just running because then I'd hurt my knees and I'll need my knees. I'll need my elbows and my back. So in the end, it's my solution that everybody's different. Like if you're just an amazing, strong guy and then you can only do paddle, good for you. Try it for 2 years, let it works and adapt. And my adaptation over and over made it so that I think the best protocol for me would be to do multiple sports for the 2 years leading to the event.
When I was doing some background research on this and trying to figure out how many people have done this or the mileage and all that kind of stuff. There's literally maybe 5 people that have done a transoceanic
Kayaking,
in a boat, a kayak. In fact, the only one I know of or could find that had made it from California to Hawaii was, and this is pretty funny. I use VoiceOver, the text-to-speech software. It's not perfect because it actually does pronounce all of your letters in your last name. Oh. So it's like,
how did it do that? Derreumaux.
So it'll say Derreumaux or something like that. But then it read Ed Gillet to me.
Okay, Ed Gillet. Yeah,
it would say Gillet. He did it almost 40 years ago. And there definitely, I don't think GPS was prevalent. I don't know what kind of radios. I don't know what did he have and what did you take with you as far as navigation, communication, that kind of thing?
So Ed Gillet is a Californian who crossed the mid-Pacific, the first person in a kayak. So he's just a legend. He is a maverick. He is amazing. He's amazing. He crossed from California to Hawaii in 1987. And back then, he didn't use a GPS. He used a sextant. So he calculated the height of the sun at noon to know where he was on the water. His communication system just failed.
A sextant?
So people didn't know if he were dead or alive. And he finally arrived after, so it was in 1987. It was like 64 days to get to Maui. And he just arrived on the beach and nobody was waiting for him because they didn't know, right? He would be arriving. So this guy's a legend. I met Ed Gillet, and we talked about my crossing. It was just amazing. But what he did is just out of this world. So he's the first one to kayak. He used a kite, where, he would pull by the wind, and rightfully so. Like, he was the first one to do it. He said, well, I don't know how long it'll take. I need a kite. And it just did, that's why it took him months faster than me. So I was the first one to do it human powered, but I don't think I would ever have attempted it had he not done it before, right? It's the value of those people that do the first thing once and then, you're like, okay, it's doable. Now, can we do it a little bit, push a little bit further the envelope and say, can we do it human powered? Is it possible? What kind of vessel would that be? It'll take longer. So what do I carry on it, for it to be safe? So yeah, love this guy.
Yeah, one thing that I did notice that was similar was that you both rationed, I guess, didn't ration enough nutrients, enough food for the journey. In fact, he ran out, 20 days?
Yeah. So he thought it was going to take 50 days. So he had 50 days of food, but his kayak is much smaller than mine. And he ran out of food. I think, the book that is called The Pacific Alone, I invite everybody to read The Pacific Alone. He says that he's pretty much just eating his toothpaste the last week, because all he would do is take the toothpaste and refresh his mouth. And that's all he would have. So he arrived, it was so weak. He pretty much crawled on the beach all the way to the first stand to eat all the candies they would find, And for me, It was not that bad. I thought it was going to take 70 days and it took me 90 days. So halfway through, I started to ration, but I started with daily rations of 4,000 calories. So when I had to ration, I ate 2,300 a day. That allowed me to push for the extra 3 weeks. And then I changed destination. Instead of going to Honolulu, I moved to an island that would be closer. I would saved 5 days off of my journey. And I arrived there. I could have lasted another 2 weeks for sure, So it was not that bad. You have to adapt, whatever it is, right?
He also, I saw that he set up like an inflatable tent or something, threw out a sea anchor, and he would sleep. He said he was like camping.
So the sea anchor is this little parachute, sort of, that you attach at the end of the kayak. And what it does is slows down your drift, and then it points the kayak in the right direction. And that allows you to sleep better because it puts you perpendicular to the waves instead of parallel where you could capsize. Now, he didn't use a tent. He had this tarp that he would put over his head. But try to put that and try to sleep and lay down on this cockpit. I mean, the guy's I've said it 1,000 times. He's a legend. And I don't know how he endured it. He's a true survivor for that crossing. In fact, he said it in his book. He said, had I done this crossing 10 times, I would have failed. Meaning died 5 out of 10, right? I wanted the odds to be different in my crossing. So I think my odds of surviving were 95. The odds of making it, crossing across, were a bit lower. But still, I put all the chances on my side.
How did you sleep? I mean, you have that cabin. Did you sleep through the night? Did you wake intermittently? How did that work?
Well, one of the biggest dangers when I'm in the cabin and I'm closed in and it's completely dark outside is I don't see what's coming, right? So I rely on equipment, and electronics to broadcast my position out and then to see who's coming. One of the biggest dangers is the container ships or the fishing boats that are coming. It could be much larger than me. I'm 23 feet long, which is 7 meters. They're 300 meters long, right? It's a little bit bigger. They go faster. I go 2 miles an hour. They go 20 miles an hour. So at night, I want to make sure no boat hits me. And I can rely only on the electronics that would detect them, but I think it's not super safe. So what I do is I wake up every hour to look at my GPS and see if there's any boat coming. It's called an AIS, automatic identification system, that broadcasts my position. And I can see on my plotter, which is my GPS, the boats that are coming. I can click on it. There's a little arrow. Oh yeah, here's this boat. It's 300 meters long. It's going in this direction at this space. And you have a chance of collision in an hour. Okay. At that point, it's not good. He should see me and maybe he'll move, but he's maybe, not looking at his plotter at that perfect moment, or maybe he's looking at it, but he say, what is this? Looks by the window, doesn't see me because I'm so tiny. So just to make sure, I'll call them on the VHF, which is the radio, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was, hey, do you see me? Do you see me? Whatever. And then say, okay, we'll just go around you, no problem. But just for safety, I wake up every hour at night. Doesn't make for a great sleep. But strangely enough, your body adapts to that sleep deprivation after a while.
Yeah. Wow. What about just the isolation? Being on that, because I know it was, for me, it was an entire year, just about an entire year that I was completely blind, completely deaf. I felt like I was trapped in my body. Until the cochlear implant, started working, and I could hear, voices again. I could communicate again, voice to voice. And it was kind of funny with the COVID, quarantine, and everybody's complaining about being locked in their homes and being lonely and nothing to do. Like, that's nothing. Welcome to my world.
Right.
But you were 91 days, and you did it again, across the Atlantic. What was it like just being in your own mind that long?
I mean, you're the master. You should tell me. And here's the thing. Okay, so whenever it was a hard time, well, first of all, once you're in a situation where you have nothing else, not other option than to cope with it, it's going to be tough, but you're going to have to find a way. It's survival. And you're going to trial one thing, one another, right? And I'm going to asking back to you, like, how do you do? Because I remember my uncle, before I left for the Pacific, said, Cyril, okay, those 90 days are going to be hard. They're going to be tough. Like, you're going to wonder why you decided to do this. But hey, remember that you decided to do this. So in a way, I'm never going to complain because I decided to be here. I could have stayed home and watched TV and not being in that situation, right? And then he kept along to say, look, there's a lot of people that are in situations they have not chosen. And how do they deal with this, right? Whether you lose somebody in your life, where you lose your job, or, somebody gets divorced, you lose somebody you love, and maybe you lose like your eyesight. Like, how do you deal with a situation that you can't control and it's put upon you? So let me ask you, how did you overcome that 1 year of loneliness, being alone, like mentally, emotionally? Did you have somebody help you? Like, did you rely on your network? Did you just find a way? How did you find a way? I'm so interested in this. Tell me.
Did you have a song stuck in your head the whole time?
Yeah, there's many songs that come and go. Yeah. How about
Sometimes, you? I remember I had I had the Hawaii Five-0 theme song always playing in the back of my head. I couldn't get rid of it because I couldn't listen to any other music.
Wow.
I even spoke to a producer once of the show. She's like, "That's my hell," and I thought, no, it was pretty cool. but
did you try to think, okay, can I think about another song and try to sing that one? Or did it would just
sneak into my head. It would just be there every once in a while.
I know.
Constantly. But what about the other things that kind of invaded your mind? You talked about control. You're
okay. I can see that you're deflecting the answer. You're the master of this. Tell me more. How did you do? Like, this 1 year alone, how did you cope with it? It's just like a reconciliation of the fact that you can't accept that. You can't escape that. So you have to, like, you're the human mind what you just did is like so much harder than me.
No, I don't know what's harder. It's very relative to the person you are, right? And that's why I can never say that what I went through was any tougher, any harder than anybody else goes through. Their challenges are their own. They're personal. And so for me, Yeah, it was tough. It was difficult. And how did I cope? Much like you did. I'd look for the bright side. I'd look for what I could control. I looked for what I could do. And then I always looked for ways that I could use the experience to help others through their own experiences. How can I can make this a teachable moment for somebody else.
I love it. So in hindsight, that's what you say. And that's the same thing that I say is like, here's how I coped with hardship. I was crying every day because I was feeling alone, but then I would surpass it, right? And in hindsight, I adapted. So what could you tell somebody now that is going through the shit, that is crying every day because of the hardship? Okay, how do you deal with the pain and the hardship? That's what I think people want to hear, which is, okay, you just have to accept and then feel the moment, feel the pain, accept the pain, and just go through. And you're going through hell, keep walking, and you're going to get to the other side. I think that's the message of hope, is not how I did it. It doesn't matter how I did it. It's how you're going to go through the other side, no matter what hardship you're going to go through right now. You see what I mean?
Well, whose show was this, by the way? I'm the question asker. But you're right. You're right. It's a lot different when you're on the other side. You're right. You say, well, okay, I made it. That wasn't so bad. And at the time of the recording, I'm about 2 weeks away from going to Africa. So when this airs, I'll have come back, successful or not, I don't know. But running 200 miles from the coast of Africa, Mombasa to Kilimanjaro, and then of course attempting to summit the 19,000 feet. And I remember every mountain I've ever climbed, before and after the mountain, I'm thinking, I can't wait. This is awesome. I can't wait for the next one. This is going to be so great. Mm-hmm. And on the mountain, I'm like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Yeah. This is hard. But I think that's something our human minds do, is we diminish the hard parts. We learn from them. That's how we become more resilient. Right. And it's the thing is that we tend to forget how terrible the experience, the bad parts, and then we emphasize the good parts. And so when I'm going through, and frankly, when I went deaf, that was 4 years after I went blind. So it wasn't like I hadn't ever gone through something traumatic. I'd already done it. And it was as though I was, practicing it all over again.
Oh, of course. We have tools that we can tap in and use, but we're human. And it's another challenge altogether. Listen, okay, when I finished the Atlantic in March 2025, last year, I was in a 9-year relationship, and my fiance at the time decided to break up with me because I'm not going to go into details, but I guess the life of an adventurer, of a guy who's 3 months at sea, is really anxiety and there's reasons why. Anyway, I arrived on land. I could say that I'm a guru. I can be 3 months alone. I know how to cope with my loneliness. I know how to cope with my emotions. I got this. No, it was like grief all over again. And it's a year in. I'm still not completely healed, but I had to go through all the 5 stages of grief. All the expectation, anger, and then I had to go through this. I'm human, and just like you lost your eyesight, and then you left your. Everybody has to adapt, and I did
the same thing. In fact, I tell people how stereotypical I was with the stages of the levels of the stages of grief, of loss, and it was textbook. How I remember, but it was at that time when I realized that I was doing just that. I gave myself a time limit. I will mourn my situation. I will have my pity party. I will let myself feel this, and then I will get to work.
Love it.
bettering my situation. Like in the military, they say always improve your position, always improve your foxhole. And so first, I felt it, I accepted it, I went through it, and then I got to work. Right, I started doing what I could, controlling the controllables. I was wondering, those moments of isolation, was there fear or doubt that you could accomplish this? Was there fear of survival? What were some of those weak moments?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you have a hardship, there's usually, it's known like those 3 F's. There's fight, flight, or freeze, right? And let's say I'm in a storm. I don't think fighting the storm is going to do anything. The ocean is so strong. So fight is not going to work for me. Flight, I can't escape because the ocean's there. I'm in the middle of the ocean. I can't flight. And then freeze, which is essentially just trying to hide from it, is not going to work either because I'm here. I can't hide from it. So the only way that I can cope with hardship when it's happening like this is acceptance. And you said it just before, which is you accept the fact that you're in the situation, and from that on, you move on. Okay. So you talk about fear. I accept that I'm fearful right now. There's no fighting fear. It's just, okay, what does this teach me? What can I do about it? What are the levers that I have against this? And then you start action. If you're feeling lonely, or if you're feeling like you're overwhelmed by the situation where I'm never going to get to Hawaii, I still have 50 days. You accept, and then you acknowledge your inability to control the situation. You let go of control. And then from that, you say, what is it that I have control of? I have control about my mind. I have control about my nutrition. I can eat something that makes me happy. I can sleep more. I can do, what are the things that I have in control, and then work on that,
That's exactly what I was talking about earlier, was that, you feel those feelings, you go through the emotions, and then you work on what you can. Right? And I remember sitting right at my kitchen counter. I couldn't hear, I couldn't see. I even lost my balance, vestibular balance, which also made kayaking very difficult after that. But I was just sitting there in my kitchen and feeling sorry for myself for a little while, and then frankly, I got bored. I needed to do something, and I started thinking of what can I do to, move forward, to do something, right?
Yeah.
So you're in a kayak, and like you said, there's a limitation to the things that, like quitting or jumping ship or running away. It's really not an option. So what can you do, right?
Yeah.
When you completed the trip, you finally reached shore again. What about even before reaching shore? When you first saw
land?
Actually, even before that, let's back up even more. I want to talk about the experience a little bit more, because is it like a desolate, like a barren desert, but it's the ocean, right? It's just water. Was it boring? Did the scenery change much? What about wildlife? Did you experience any connection with nature, so to speak?
Yeah. So when you stare at the same thing the whole day, new things that you didn't see before start to happen, to appear, right? Just go in your backyard now. And I guess in your case, let's take the hearing aspect of it, right? At first, you're going to hear things, and if you sit down, you're going to hear something else that you haven't heard before, and then you're starting to be aware of other things that you didn't see before. sorry, I keep using the seeing, hearing before. And for me, it was the same. Like, I'm on my boat for 10 hours a day, and there's nothing else to do than being in the moment. There's no reason for me to think about the future, because that's the source of pain, because I can't be in the future. There's no reason for me to think of the past, because it's gone already. So the only option for me is to be in the moment. And then you can read in all the books where, okay, Buddhism is like the future doesn't matter, the past doesn't matter. There's only the now, the presence, the full consciousness of the presence is what matters, until you're in that situation where it is. And when you're in the moment, when I start to look at the waves a different way, and I can notice how the wind is pushing at me a different way, and look at the clouds, and I can see the birds, I can see the fish that are following me. Maybe I start to create a relationship with that fish that's been following me for 3 days. I give him a name, and then, you're hanging up to dear life in the way that you're looking for things that are alive, and you give it a meaning. Like this movie about Tom Hanks, Cast Away, where he starts to talk about that volleyball. I started to speak to my flag just because I gave it a personality, and then you're not becoming crazy. You're just trying to hang on to humanity in every shape or form. And it's kind of funny. You have to be aware that you're doing this. Obviously, you're still in control. But look, this fish that followed me for 3 days. Imagine you're walking down the street, and there's this dog that comes along to you, right? You don't pet him, but wherever you go, he follows you. Everywhere you stop, he stops, and he'll go over there and then do something and come back. You're going to create a relationship with that dog, right? You're going to give him a name. You're going to say, hey, buddy, how you doing today? I'm going to sleep and I'm coming back. There's still the same fish under my boat. I create a relationship with that fish. So,
it could be the sequel to Dances with Wolves, Dances with Fish.
Exactly. And then why not? And then this bird that comes to see me, it's not random. You could give it a meaning where he's coming to check on me, right? And then you look at this bird that every day I saw a different bird like that came. And then you look at awe of how this bird is surviving on the ocean. You haven't seen land in 2 months, and this bird is coming. Like, I'm in awe about the adaptability and the surviving skills of that bird. Like, what are you eating? Where do you sleep? There's a storm coming. Do you know? Get out of here. So you create a relationship with that, but then you could also create a relationship with the clouds, saying, hey, clouds, I can read you. I can understand you. Thanks for the tip that there's a storm coming, right? And then you go back to that roots of knowing nature. And I guess maybe what the native Indians would form with nature, that relationship. What are the energies of the river, the energies of the sun, of the forest, of the desert? And then you create that sensitivity that we don't have anymore when we're on land. And that's what I felt with the ocean. I felt one because of the ocean, because I could read it, understand it, and then learn and feel acquainted with it so much that it was me. So let me tell you about this one moment where I felt one. Okay, so it was one day I was crying. I don't know, I was emotional. I was thinking about my mom or my friends or whatever. And I have this tear on my cheek, right? This one tear, which is salted water. At the same moment, the ocean splashes me and drops a drop of water on my leg. And I look at this drop of water, which is salted water. And it's 1-1. To me, just like I said, I could find meaning where I wouldn't see before. It was the ocean telling me, look at that drop of water. Look at that. It comes out of your body. We're the same. Like, you're a drop of water and I'm water. And then you realize, intellectually, you connect the dots. It's been 2 months that I've been drinking ocean water because it's a desal water that I'm drinking. So 70% of my body, which is made of water, or at the molecular level, it's 90% of I'm made of water. It's all ocean water. So I'm water. I'm ocean water, right? So I'm one. So at that point, if I were to die, I don't really care because I'm going back to who I am. I'm the ocean. And you look up at the sky and the clouds are made of water, right? And then those fish down there that I start to be acquainted to, they're water. They're majority of water. So I have nothing to fear. So it goes into a spiritual mode where, it's just fantastic. So it's God. what is God essentially? It's the oneness. It's the interconnectedness of all things. And I'm one with the ocean. I'm one with life. I'm one with the breath. I'm one. Wow. Loved it.
What was the feeling when you finally realized that you were going to make it? Right? I'm sure you were certain most of the time.
Well, I wouldn't give myself the satisfaction of believing that I had done it until I was like in looking at land, which is maybe a day away of paddling. So that's why when I saw land, it was a big relief where, okay, now nobody's going to stop me. I'm going to get there no matter what. But until then, I was very aware that I could hurt my wrist. I could hurt my elbow, and then I would have to be rescued. But the feeling is just, whoa, it's overwhelmingly, like gut-wrenchingly happy to have done it. But not only just to have crossed it, but to have believed in that dream that a lot of naysayers were saying it's not possible, it's hard. You're not going to, not you, like maybe other people, but why you? Like, look at you, like you're a regular guy. Why? So it was just the transformation in my eyes that I had done it and that I had known it from the get-go that I could do it. Right. And that is like, there you go. It's done now. And here's how I explain it. When we do a project, we usually think that it's linear. You do the step 1 and then you have step 2. And then from step 2, you step 3, which is kind of like linear, right? But no, like a project is like a puzzle where you will have all the pieces racked on one side, and then you can see the picture and you try to make sense of it, right? You put one piece and another piece and another piece, and then you see it. But in that case, it's a puzzle where you actually don't have the final picture on the box. You just have it in your head. And everybody else looking at your job doing the puzzle will not see anything of what you see. So the vision that you have is only you, right? And then you put the pieces together, and maybe you don't even have the pieces on the table. You have to create them along the way. And then they start to make sense. So it's a creative process where okay, I'm missing this piece. I got to build it for the next 2 years so I can have it and put it on the puzzle. And seeing land is finally finishing that puzzle where, like, I knew it. I knew that thing in the first place. I didn't know it would look like this, but I knew I could do it. And then the puzzle is there for everybody else to see it. And it's kind of funny when you have a big project like this, everybody's going to say, why? Why do you want to do this? Like, why? And the question is why? But then once you've done it, they see it and they say, well, how did you do it? Tell me about it, because I want to do that in my own life too. I want to know, how did you do it, right? I guess that's what entrepreneurs and visionaries for any kind of project have. They see it and it's blurry, but you have to go and do it. And you have to trust your ability to adapt, right? And again, I feel so bad too. I've used the words to see, because you're blind, but I guess you see it yourself, like in your own mind. I use this word, but it's this ability to create a belief in your mind that you could do it. Like when you started to think, I'm going to do this podcast, you had that idea of something you wanted to do, and you're just making it happen.
As far as the adaptation, the brain, it's an amazing thing, and how we actually get used to something that just seemed so difficult, so hard, and then becomes more normal to just behave or perform at that. I remember like running ultra marathons, right? It's really hard. It's often very miserable. It's a test. And you go through all those moods. Then you also got to get used to it, the grind, the pain. And I remember running Badwater, 2023. That thing, the whole thing is a crucible. But you go over these mountain ridges, but the very last 13 miles of that thing is straight up It's straight up Mount Whitney from Lone Pine, and it's the last 13 miles of the Badwater 135 is like the toughest half marathon in the world. And so I'm grinding and grinding and grinding, and then all of a sudden we're at the finish line. I'm like, oh wait, it's over. That cap. Did you get this feeling when you hit Hawaii? You're like, wow, oh wow, that almost happened fast. You were out there for months, but it was almost all of a sudden I'm done.
Yeah, and it's very bittersweet, because the one thing you want to do is get to land and hug the people you love and eat some food and sleep on a bed that is not wet, take a good shower. But once you get there, you're like, what? That means my adventure is done. It took forever, but now it's done. And then you have this weird, bittersweet nostalgia of finishing that adventure. So I guess I reassured myself that I could always start another one after, whenever I would be resting, and I have to enjoy the moment for what it is. The project is done. And then, that mind control that you have.
So it did.
But yeah, it's bittersweet. Yeah, because life out there is so simple. And I loved it.
So you did the Pacific, and then across the Atlantic. What's next? I don't want to call it an addiction, but then you want to keep going back anyways. Something about being a glutton for the punishment or the challenge. I know. I feel it. I do it myself.
Yeah. So I think what it is I do have a personality that loves adventure, that loves freedom, and that will never change, right? Now, the shape and form that is going to take in the future, I don't know, right? And I don't think I have a virus for hardship, but I think there's something that I'm searching, which is, hey, I felt this in my life, and I want to feel it again. So maybe it's an addiction to a feeling that is hard to understand. Maybe the feeling the oneness or the spirituality, or feeling one with nature, and one that it's hard to feel when I'm back on land having this regular job. So I guess I'm going to have to go back at some point. Now, is it going to be crossing an ocean? It doesn't have to. I could be crossing Mongolia on a horseback and feel that. I could be alone and a fishing lake and just be, just in California, I could find a place where I'm alone, and I would maybe make it, maybe it won't, but I think I'll just listen to what my vibes will say and say, I want to do this. And I'll just do it. I'll just follow what makes me vibe.
I'd like to think of it as trying to reach the most honest, the rawest, the most true parts of myself. The most honest parts of the corners of my own, psyche. I break myself down in these challenges and really see who I am, and then build myself back and see what my potential is, what I'm capable of. And it teaches me a little bit more about myself each time.
Yeah. Do you think you're trying to prove something to you that with even the fact that you've lost your sight and you're here, that you can still live? Like I think I might be trying to prove myself something. Like I have the phobia of being a regular guy. Like, we're 7 billion people on Earth. I don't want to be one of the 7 billion. I somehow want to feel special. So maybe I'm trying to do this to prove to myself that I'm somewhat special. I'm doing things people don't do. Like, who knows why I do the things I do? It doesn't really matter. In the end, I feel like I want to do this. Let's go. But what about you? Do you think you, in some ways, have you tried to analyze why do you things you do? And does that make sense to you?
Sure, there's definitely a stubborn streak there that says I am still capable. And also, a sheer terror of being stuck on the couch for the rest of my life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're feeding off that fear to do something amazing. And like, people are aging. I don't want to be that guy that's old. I want to do more. Like, I guess there's the good side of everything. And I'm sure you're certainly not happy. You wish you would have your eyes, but you could see the benefits of what you've learned and how you became that person that is so mentally strong, emotionally strong. And in my way, maybe, I guess it's also part of this generation where everything is so easy and given to you. And we feel like we have no hardship. And am I trying to find a hardship in my own life so that I can feel alive and I create those values that make me a better person? Which would be kind of weird that I'm seeking hardship so that I can be a better person. It's so weird, huh? I don't know. Who knows?
I'll tell you what, your accomplishments are inspiring. And I really do appreciate you getting to share, coming on, sharing this with the Disruptor Nation, my audience, and with me. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's about time to start wrapping it up. So, was there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share about the journey? Anything you learned that maybe I didn't ask?
No, I think in the end, like I said, I'm asking, how did you do it? And it comes back down to maybe inspiring people to start their own journey. Like if you've been willing to do something for the last 10 years, you haven't done it. It doesn't really matter why, but just start.
Excellent.
Start today. You will adapt. You will adapt. Do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. Well, I think it's a perfect time to jump into our final segment, the countdown to impact. This is 3, 2, 1. 3 books, 2 quotes, and 1 person who have all made an impact in your life.
Wow. I love it. So 3 books. Okay. I think there's a book that I just read. Maybe the last one I read. It's Don't Believe Everything You Think. I forget the author, but if you just put the title. And I loved it because it just shows how sometimes your mind can trick you, and the thoughts that you have and maybe interpreting or trying to make sense of your thoughts is a source of pain. So usually just having the thought is not a source of pain, but it's the way how you try to understand and think of the thought itself that could be a source of pain. So don't believe everything you think. Another book I really like is The 4 Agreements. The Toltec agreements, as just always go back to. Another book that I really loved for different reasons is from Jack London, Martin Eden, and it's a autobiography that he wrote about himself. That I loved it. Every page was enjoyable. And I connected to that book. I don't know if anybody's heard of you've heard of all the other books of Jack London, but read Martin Eden. I think it's probably the book I've enjoyed the most ever.
Awesome. I love it. In honor of French origins, I think one of my favorite sayings to add to the quotes is "Cherchez la fin." Is what I often say whenever I come to a problem that is inexplainable. Anyways.
Yeah, I love it.
Anyways, last 2 questions. Where can people find out more about you if they want to connect or just learn more?
Okay, so I just created a very easy URL for people to follow. Because if you search my name, CyrilDerreumaux.com, go ahead and spell it. It's so hard. So I bought the URL, which is thecrazyfrenchguy.com. And that should lead you to my website. And from there, you could find my social media, Instagram, Facebook, the podcast. So if you go to thecrazyfrenchguy.com, you should find me.
All right. And last question.
Go for it.
What's your definition of living a life of impact?
Oh, let me pull this up. Okay. It's a quote that I've been pondering with. It's a quote from Picasso. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. So the question is, what is your gift and how do you give it away? Okay, and here's my own situation, my own definition. Everybody has to find their own definition. Maybe I shouldn't tell mine. But I think find your gift and then give it away.
Excellent. I love it. All right. Phil, thank you very much once again. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yes, let's do it. I've got so much to learn from you. I'll rig you for all the mental tricks, and then you're a guru, my man. Thank you so much.
Merci and au revoir.
Au revoir.